morning. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome, thank you. Welcome to First Parish in Milton. My name is Jonah Buchman, and I'm the worship associate for the summer service. Thank you for being with us this morning, either in the meeting house physically or here, by the way, on Zoom. However your journey, whatever your heritage, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. In our summer services, we enjoy lay-led preaching and storytelling. This gives us the opportunity to learn from each other's journeys and get to know each other, which strengthens our community. A special welcome to anyone here with us for the first time. Please look for information for newcomers in your pew, and please introduce yourselves after the service. Living our faith happens both inside and outside this meeting house. This week we call your attention to the RE program. The deadline to sign up for youth is August 21st, and Bridget Sitkoff was curious about any faith formation interests that people might have within that program. This time is made holy by your presence. The Zoom chat function will now be disabled until the postlude at the end of the service. Please make sure you're on mute until then, or if you're in the meeting house, please silence your cell phone. Now let us gather our hearts and minds in sacred attention. Even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." Look what happens with a love like that. It lights the whole sky. Thanks, Leslie. Each Sunday, we light the chalice as a reminder that even in an increasingly unpredictable and dangerous world, the flame of our faith continues to shine. A corner of warmth and awareness where we, the members of this faith community, can find comfort, support, and connection to one another. Now, please join me in the call to worship. Come, let us gather. We gather to celebrate the sacred within and among us. We come to seek spiritual growth and understanding. We strive to practice acceptance, forgiveness, and love. Together, we work to build a world with justice and compassion. Come, let us gather together. Now we're going to sing our opening hymn, We Laugh, We Cry. This is a poem by Lynn Unger called These Days. Anyone who tells you not to be afraid should have their head examined. Cities are burning, hillsides are burning, and the dumpster fire of our common life is out of control. I wish I could tell you when it was going to get better. I wish I could promise that better was anywhere down this road. I miss dancing, bodies in something between conversation and flight. I miss singing, the way we trusted the air that moved between us. I miss the casual assumption that everything would be all right in the morning. These days, I am trying to be buoyed by the smallest things. A ripe tomato, a smattering of rain. These days, I am trying to remember that songs of lamentation are still songs. And Leslie is going to speak about membership now.
There, can you hear me? Great. Good morning, everyone. It is so lovely to see this collection of people here. Yeah, I knew I had it. My thoughts today, and this whole service actually, grew out of something that I did last spring. For those who don't know, at First Parish, I serve as chair of our membership committee. In March, our committee offered an online workshop called the UU Elevator Speech. It's part of a wonderful curriculum developed by the UU Church in Dallas, Texas. On 3 Tuesday evenings, a group of us gathered virtually and talked about what it means to identify as a Unitarian Universalist, specifically to figure out how to talk about this identity to others who don't know much or anything about it. The concept is that you imagine you're riding an elevator with this someone and they ask you, as it so often happens, so you're UU? What does that mean? You then have the length of this imaginary elevator ride to explain it to them. Now, if you're like me, what you know is that when you get the question, usually what you hear is, oh, you're UU. You're the ones who don't have any beliefs. Or more often, aren't you the guys who don't believe anything? Pardon me, I need to go scream for a moment. Okay, I'm back. Yes, I do get this, and I've gotten it a lot, and you may have too. During our gatherings, we wanted to address this, and the conversations were rich. But what I began with was the simple hope that folks would feel ready if and when one of these questions came. But what actually happened was that over the 3 weeks, we went deep. It started out as, how do you describe Unitarian Universalism? But it quickly evolved to, how do I talk about what I believe when belonging to a church can be loaded, to say the least, with assumptions and connotations, especially in these politically divisive times? What does it mean to talk to people about being a church person? But here's what we discovered. The very process of coming together and looking at how we got here was really empowering. By the final gathering, the group was not just ready to answer a question. They sounded like they wanted to go out and find others to share it with. Evangelical UUs? Why not? They also suggested that I use our workshop as a summer service. I thought about it, but I wasn't sure how to condense our organic conversations into a 1-hour service, and also, spoiler, we'll be running the workshop again this year. I want others to have the opportunity to experience it. But their enthusiasm motivated me and made me want to share something about how I see membership. So the idea for this service was born. And I mean membership both, yes, the committee, but also membership. Like I said, the conversations were rich. And as we talked it through, I knew it was the trust that everyone had in each other that was making it possible. And that's pretty much the point. That's the stuff I do membership for. Now, you might not have thought much about the membership committee. I know I didn't when I first joined. I think I assumed that they got people to join the church, but that was about it. I know when I discovered that they were the ones who threw the end-of-year picnic, I thought, church picnic, nice. But it wasn't until I joined the committee that I realized what is at the heart of it is caring and what it means to be a member of a community. What I began to understand when I joined was that, yes, we were the ones who organized the annual picnic, but the reason is so everyone can be together. When I became chair, my goal was, and still is, to find as many ways as I can for everyone in this church to feel like they know everyone else. Big goal? Maybe. I'm all in. Think about our UU principles. The inherent worth and dignity of all. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. For me, this is a no-brainer. Of course, I want everyone to feel seen and known. Now, some ways we've approached this have been small and obvious, like redoing the church directory. How can we know each other if we don't have current contact information? And other goals, like increasing our membership, are bigger. And the process is not as clearly defined, but it all comes down to one word: connection. During the COVID shutdown, I panicked. What would being connected mean when we weren't together? How could there be community? But what we found was that our creative hearts brought out the best in us when we needed it. We sent good old-fashioned mail to members. We had Zoom gatherings for poetry, storytelling, and cooking. We made hot cocoa and cider for the outdoors Christmas pageant. Yes, there was Zoom fatigue, but there was also laughter and joy. There was also the discovery that since we were released from old assumptions of doing things only a certain way, we could try something new. We also discovered that virtual meetings meant we didn't have to panic about hurrying to get to church after work for those evening meetings. I can't speak to what other committees experienced, but for me in membership, there wasn't a night when I didn't feel full and nourished after one of our meetings, grateful for the conversation I'd had with the amazing folks in my group. And if we can do it in COVID, surely we can do it in other times. And what I've been thinking about is not so much what it means to belong to First Parish or anywhere, but why. Only you can assign meaning. But why are you here now? You could be doing any number of other things, but right now instead, you are connected to us, to me, to Jonah, to Liz, to each other here at First Parish. Here, now. There is something to this. Some of you have probably been part of First Parish for years, or maybe you're just checking us out today, in which case, extra special welcome. I know when I joined, I was between churches. I'd been between churches for about 20 years at that point. I'm a Cradle UU, but it was being a part of that demographic, parent of grade schoolers, that nudged me into action. Lots of folks find us that way, which is great, but that's not everyone. Can you remember when you first joined this church or whatever church you belong to? The first time you went in the door, do you remember what it was that said to you, yeah, let's go in? What were you hoping for? What were you expecting? How did it feel? I can tell you intellectually why I came the first time, and I can even wax rhapsodic about the choir and the organ up in the loft that day. I remember liking Reverend Parish right away, too. But after I left, I knew I'd go back. I'd been to other churches which were also intellectually okay, but when I got here, this place was different. I knew I had found my church home because I felt it. Here's the thing. The word membership is pretty sterile. Generally, the first definition is just simply being part of a group or maybe the number of people within it. But I know there is so much more. I haven't said this to Reverend Lisa, but if I could change the name of our group, I would call us the Community Committee. We are the portal for new members, of course, but the heart of our group is making community. We are about getting and staying connected. I'll end by describing a collage that the membership committee made during our annual retreat in June, which in fact, if you're in the church, you can see it's our flowers on the pulpit today. We did a bit of arts and crafts to get us on the other side of our brains to start that day. I told the group that we were going to put together a visual representation of who we are and how we saw ourselves going into the next church year. They only had a short amount of time, glue stick, and a handful of old magazines and calendars. On the finished product is a colorful burst of images. Albert Einstein, an archway to a garden, a bright platter of vegetables, a piano, a set of stairs. And there were phrases: where to begin, serving with the deepest respect and care. The way to know life is to love many things. All hands on deck, and yes, please. These are the folks who are dreaming membership into what we will do next. Now, I don't know what it'll be, but I know I am grateful to be part of it. I am glad that you chose to be connected with us here today, and certainly I look forward to knowing you better. Peace. And now, if you can rise and are able, we are going to join in the next hymn, which is There Is More Love, which is numbered 95 in the gray hymnal.
Be a really fast talker. So if I'm talking too fast, please give me a sign. Slow down, Jonah. It's okay, Jonah. My reflection is called On Having Enough Space. I'm going to give a brief content warning before I'm talking about bullying a little bit, just in advance of that. Like most 7th graders, I took a big yellow school bus to school. It whooshed and whirred down the street, and there I was, a 12-year-old who was desperately trying to emulate the clothes and hairstyles of the high school students on Dawson's Creek. When the bus picked me up at the corner of Hill and Roosevelt, I entered a whole new world. It was set up so that the 3 grade levels, 6th, 7th, and 8th, all occupied the front, middle, and back of the vehicle respectively. I traveled to the middle clumsily, carrying a very large trumpet case for my lessons after school. There was nowhere near enough room for me, for a lot of reasons. I remember unsuccessfully trying to find a seat, even though the seats available consisted of less than a foot of space. Soon after I got on the bus, the kids would start taunting me. "Here comes Jonah," they said. "Watch out for Jonah, he's gonna bump into you." And I would. My trumpet case, my feet, and my body would hit them and hurt them temporarily, and I would feel crummy and ashamed about that for the entirety of the time that I was on the bus, and even after. The 2-minute walk to the seat in the middle of the bus was harrowing. I remember a time when I was walking home from the shopping plaza near me, and one of the kids from the bus yelled at me from across the street and asked me why I walked strangely. This, along with some classroom bullying, contributed to me having a depressive episode that year. I was born with mild cerebral palsy on my left side. It affects my balance, coordination, and spatial awareness. Put simply, I love Zumba a lot, but I'm really bad at Zumba and will likely miss 90% of the steps. I have trouble navigating small spaces that do not have ample room, like a school bus or a crowded train car. It's interesting to think about how this situation in 2022 will be very different than it was in 1998. There will be more provisions and rules that allowed for more space. There's a whole anti-bullying movement, something that was sorely needed 25 years ago. I might have been put on another bus entirely. I might have had a smaller trumpet case. There's so many possibilities now, happily. The school bus was definitely a place where I didn't belong, but there are so many places that I do. One that comes to mind was the summer camp that my mom directed in the South End, where I attended from roughly 1991 until 2008. After a difficult 7th grade year, I went to camp that summer and had a completely different experience. We gathered in the front lobby of the music center. It was also a space that was probably too small for all the participants to fit in. But we gathered, some of us sitting on each other's laps, and sang songs and heard announcements. I remember sitting in the lobby and this feeling of warmth came over me. I can't quite describe it, but it is among the most powerful feelings I've experienced in my life. I belonged there. It was a place where I was accepted. It was a big relief from the taunting, and I made friends there who I saw year after year. I found my current job through one of my childhood friends from that camp, and it still occupies a very special place in my heart. On my bookshelf at home, there's a picture of a group of campers, including me, looking vaguely awkward from the year 2000. It's something that I hold very dear and would likely take with me if there was ever an emergency and I could only grab a few things. I try very hard not to dwell in negativity. I realize that there is always more love, hope, or joy somewhere, and that broadly speaking, for every negative experience, there is a positive experience coming down the pipeline. I remember that in my early 20s, I would carry a canvas bag with my belongings everywhere, even when the canvas bag got frayed and dirty. One of my many canvas bags featured a quote from Emily Dickinson on the front, where she says that she dwells in possibility. I try very hard to listen to Emily. In Unitarian Universalism and at First Parish, there is definitely enough room for me. I feel that Unitarian Universalism is a religion made up of people who are probably taunted a little bit on the school bus. It's a religion that is being written and rewritten as we speak, where current events will factor into the history of UUs when those books are written. It is a religion where the basic tenets, love, joy, hope, peace, justice, and belonging, are distilled down into palpable, understandable, and meaningful ways, songs, and messages. I think there's also a metaphor in the school bus bullying that I spoke of. Unitarian Universalism is a place where people can belong and where we make room for people of all sorts who might be clumsy, like me, and carrying big-ass trumpet cases. When we make room for those of us who are carrying hard, heavy, or unwieldy things, that person starts to feel like they belong. In doing so, we can enable others to find their power, to find their calling, and to make the world a better place. It starts with making room, with giving space, and letting others know that they are welcome and that they are not alone.
Can we join together for a moment of meditation or prayer? As we enter into this silence, we remember the many connections that sustain and uplift us through this religious community. We remember those who preceded us, whose contributions built a free faith, who built this home for that practice. We remember those around us whose continuing care in thought and deed is an ongoing blessing in our lives, keeping the dream of free religion alive in our time. We remember those who will follow us, the children presently in our care and those not yet to come, who will inherit the work of our hands and our hearts. In silence now, we'll sit surrounded by these many connections, visible and invisible, that remind us every day that we are not alone. Peace be with us and with all under the sun.
Today's offering is dedicated to the services and ministry of First Parish, Milton. Here's how to give. Simply text 617-539-7576, which you will see on your screen if you're coming to us virtually over there. Your text should only be the amount you want to give. If it's your first time to do this, you will get instructions for setting up an account with your credit or debit card. After that, you can just text the amount. Again, the number is 617-539-7576. For those of you here in the meeting house, you can also leave cash or a check in the offering plate on your way out, by the front door, that is, over there. If you're proud of this church, become its advocate. If you care about its future, share its message. The message is, we welcome all to build a just and healthy world with faith, with love, and with compassion. This vision is brought alive by your presence, your participation, and your support. Please support this faith community by giving as generously as you can. For the unison dedication, which is also going to be on the screen, may these gifts be transformed into strength for this faith community, into comfort and shelter for those in need, and may we be transformed by generosity. Our final hymn is Go Lift It Up, which is in the teal hymnal, hymn 1057. I'm going to read a benediction. I'm going to read a benediction, and then the doxology, and then the dedication. There's another trigger warning for this quote from Miranda July, from her book, No One Belongs Here More Than You. Do you have doubts about life? Are you unsure if it's worth the trouble? Look at the sky. That is for you. Look at each person's face as you pass on the street. Those faces are for you. And the street itself, and the ground under the street, and the ball of fire underneath the ground, all these things are for you. They are as much for you as they are for other people. Remember this when you wake up in the morning and think you have nothing. Stand up and face the east. Now praise the sky and praise the light within each person under the sky. It's okay to be unsure, but praise, praise, praise. For the doxology, from all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every land by every tongue. And for our dedication, may these gifts be transformed into strength for this faith community, into comfort, food, and shelter for those in need, and may we be transformed by generosity. Go in peace. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, India.
Hey,
Hi,
Carl. What's going on?
Hi, folks. If good, if you want to join us, just put your camera and voice on, mic on, and join us. Hi, everyone. Nice to see everyone. I'm Carl.
Hey, Julie Baker.
Hey, there's Joy.
Hello, India. How are you?
Great. How are you? It's